Thank you, everyone. To say it's a pleasure to be here is an understatement. I remember the first time Sophia told me about Creative Mornings. I was just enamored. I couldn't wait to visit. She asked me to come speak today, and I was, super, super thrilled. I will say this: I'm a spoken word artist as well, and everyone in here is a creative, whether you're an artist or you do something else. And I have the utmost respect for everyone in this room. I think to be an artist, to be a creative, you have to be brave. You have to be vulnerable. You have to take risks. You have to bare your soul. And, as humans, I feel like we're insecure creatures already. And especially in this age of social media, there's so much judgment and so much scrutiny that I think it adds another level when you're creating art. So I just want to say, I have the utmost respect for everyone in this room. Like Sophia said, I work at Charlestown Coalition. I work with young people. I've actually got promoted. I'm no longer youth program coordinator. I'm youth programs manager. Thank you. We created a new program recently, Turn It Around Junior, for that middle school, 5th through 8th grade age. And we just launched that about a month ago. We're super proud, really excited to be working with that age group that since COVID has just become more vulnerable, more withdrawn. I've seen a lot of mental health issues, a lot of substance use experimentation. So really excited to really be working with them. So when Sophia told me about the theme, truth, I was intrigued. Truth, like Sophia was saying earlier, is subjective, right? From person to person, it's different. So I want to do an exercise with everyone, and Sophia said, I don't know the term you use, same vibrational energy or something. I like using the term frequency. So when I'm working with a group or I'm working with kids, I love to do a grounding to get us all on the same frequency. And then, I'll pose this question. So I want to ask everyone, if you're comfortable, invite you to close your eyes and find a comfortable position. If you're sitting down, put your back against the chair, feet firmly on the floor. And I'm going to ask everyone to take a few deep breaths with me. And then I'm going to ask you to keep your eyes closed while I pose this question to you and have you imagine something. So let's get on the same frequency. Let's take a deep breath. So let's all inhale together through our nose. And then exhale through our mouths. Do it a couple more times. In through your nose. Out through your mouth. In through your nose. Out through your mouth. Now these last two times I'm going to ask you, when you breathe in through your nose, to hold it for a beat. So in through your nose. Hold it. Out through your mouth. And one more time, in through your nose. And hold it. Out through your mouth. I want you to keep your eyes closed and just let your body take over and let your breathing occur naturally. And I want you to think back to the 14, 15-year-old you. Bring yourself back to that time in your life. And I want you to ask the younger you these questions. Were you kind? Were you spiritual? Were you family-oriented? Did you ever fall in love yet? Had you learned many life lessons? and sit with that person for a second and remember what that person's truth was at that time in your life. And I'm asking you to keep your eyes closed, and now I want you to come back to present day you. And I'm going to ask you the same questions. Are you a kind person? Are you a spiritual person? Are you family oriented? Have you ever been in love? And I want you to, and I'm sure the life lessons that you've learned along the way, think of those. Then I'm going to invite everyone to open your eyes back up. And it's inevitable that those people, being the same person, are still different and felt different things at that time and have different truths at that time. And I take that into the work I do with young people. I think a lot of times people look at kids, and I don't even call them kids, I call them young adults. And I tell them all the time, I'm going to treat you the same way I treat Sophia, the same way I treat anyone else of my coworkers. I tell them though, if you act like a kid, I may have to treat you like a kid, but to me, you're a young adult. You haven't had the experiences and learned all the lessons that adults have learned, but you're still a young adult. A teenager is a young adult. At 18, you're an adult in the eyes of the law. And I wanted to do that exercise to show people, truth is subjective. And when I'm working with young people, I like to meet them where they're at and understand their truth. And I think a lot of adults, and there's so much stigma about young people, and as a parent, parents think that kids are not paying attention or not listening, or they're not as worldly and wise as they think they are. They think they're these young beings that don't have anything sometimes to offer, or not as much. But the truth, no pun intended, of the matter is, everyone in that moment or in that season of your life has a different truth, right? And the thing that I love about my work, and I think that's made our program so successful, is I allow these young adults to be within their truth, but also I let them know that if you have an open mind, if you have an open heart, I'm going to allow you to expand your truth in any way you want. So I try to expose, and Sophia's right, and I don't like the term at risk, but I work with a lot of kids that are on the lower socioeconomic end of things, which means they're exposed to a lot of things really fast. They're exposed to community violence. They're exposed to substance use and abuse. They're exposed to violence in the home, and growing up in an urban area, I think, to their suburban counterparts, they're not almost allowed to be a kid sometimes and explore some of those things. So I try to expose them to everything either they haven't been exposed to before, they didn't know existed. I hate that public schools are cutting arts, are cutting music. These are the things I think as a human that makes us feel alive. Yeah. So we just went to the theater. I took 18 kids to the Huntington Theater the other day to see an August Wilson play, Joe Turner's Come and Gone. For 15 of them, it was their first time being at a play or the theater outside of something at school. But I exposed them to hiking, camping, fishing, things that growing up when I was exposed to it changed my life, opened the world up. And I realized nature had such a holistic benefit on mental, physical health. But I think the main thing is I expose them to so many different things. And I tell them all the time, listen, you're not going to love everything. You might not even like everything I put in front of you. But I guarantee you will like or love at least one thing. And once we find that passion in a young person, now our job, my job, coworkers, whoever works for me, is to develop that. Charlestown Coalition is part of Mass General Hospital, actually now Mass General Brigham. We're part of the Center for Community Health Improvement. There's a few coalitions. Revere has a coalition, Charlestown, Chelsea. In each coalition, we do a determinative needs survey in each community, and every 3 years, and we take the top 3 or 4 or 5 needs of the community, and that's what the coalition addresses. So because I work for MGH, I have some of the resources, some of the things that if they have an interest in healthcare, if they have an interest in, you know, other avenues, I've got a network with the hospital, with myself, with my program, that we can tap into that. So I think I love developing that passion when they find it and following them through high school, but then we still stay in touch with our over 100 alumni. Some are now young parents. Sophia and I were talking about a couple that are young parents to be. Some are in college. Some are entrepreneurs. Some are even, you know, caught up in the criminal legal system, and you know, we support them through that. And I don't even know if I think I've just been talking about more about what I do, but I think to stay with the theme of truth, it's just so amazing to view a person, a young person, but view a person's truth changing as they change, you know? And our truth always change as well, but it's not as drastic or even day to day as some of the young people we work with. So I think the one thing I really want to leave you guys with is value our youth. I tell them all the time, like in this day and age, and with the advent of social media and, you know, connecting with people around the world at a push of a button, you guys are the most creative generation. You're the generation that is breaking the kind of old stigma that you need to go to college to be successful. Growing up, all I heard, you have to go to college. I mean, you've got more teenage millionaires than we've ever had. You've got so many avenues to find a career, to find a passion, to find something that you can create a living on without going the traditional route and having a ton of loans that you have to pay back and all these other things. But like I said, the one thing I want to leave you with is value our youth, because I think they are the ones that, and it sounds cliche, will change this world, but they will. You know, they're, and this sounds cliche too, saying they're colorblind, but they kind of are. They don't get caught up in some of the old institutions that we as adults have been kind of ushered into or indoctrined into. You know, they're very quick to call adults out and make sure that we're, and I don't like the term politically correct, I just think they're making sure that we're being kind and inclusive and, you know, valuing everyone in society. It's the first time I'm 45, it's the first time I've seen this in my life. So, yeah, I love what I do. I love the young people I work with. I tell them all the time, a job is something you get up and you go to every day, you come home, you're like, oh, I gotta go to work. A career is something you love to do. You can't wait to get to work, and just getting paid is a cherry on top. So honestly, this is the cherry on top, and being able to be in places like this with people like you is just amazing for me as well. So, so yeah, that's me. But I would love to open it up. If I got time, if anyone has any questions, you know, the last thing I really like doing is standing up, like, talk. I love conversating. I love, you know, exchanging energy. So if anyone has any questions, yeah.
So one of the last things you just said, I know you said you don't like the word, but like the color blindness you're seeing, for lack of whatever the better term might be. Why do you think that is? Is this like inherent in young people now, or is like the whole environment changed that much, or what's sort of the catalyst for that?
I think it's, you know, a few things. I feel like, you know, not very long ago, you know, the last, my parents' generation, you know, my parents are both from the Jim Crow South. My father was from Dallas, Texas. My mother was from Lafayette, Louisiana, and they would tell me stories of segregated bathrooms, you know, white drinking fountains, black drinking, you know, my mother was very light-skinned, and she said we had family members that could pass and go to the better doctor, you know. So I think, one, we've moved so far from that. I do think, because we do have so many of that past generation still in government and still creating policy and still hanging on to some of this rhetoric that's divisive. I just think, and I think every generation, the young people are always idealistic and always, you know, more together. But I feel like this generation, I mean, there's no dichotomy anymore. It's not white and black, right? I think Latinx people are probably the majority in this country right now. I think there's been so much mixing, if you will, of races and cultures that anyone growing up now today would be hard-pressed to find a group to say, you're not good. I mean, there's so many. So you know, I think it's so many reasons why, but I think as each generation comes next, I just think that the American experiment is finally taken, I mean, it's only, what, 250 years? It's finally taken off. We're finally becoming that melting pot, you know? I mean, I can't wait for, like, my grandkids' and imagine the world they're in. So I think as a young country, we're finally starting to get there, but I think that's why, you know, there's color blindness with this group, you know.
The inertia of how it goes over time.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Anyone else have a question or anything? Want to share? Yeah.
I just have a comment.
Yeah.
I belong to a Unitarian Universalist church, and one of their big things is respect. And I think what you talked about and the respect you give to those kids is so important. So I congratulate you.
No, it's true. And I'm glad you brought that up. I think so many times, and I'm sure at some point I've been guilty of this. I think we all are probably guilty of ageism sometimes when we look at a younger person and think, like, what could they know? You know, what experience could they have? And I learn every day. I learn every day from young people, from older people, I'm a student of life, and I love people, and I learn from someone I meet every day, and some of my greatest teachers are the kids I work with. So, and I've been very, I think, fortunate because I work with young people. I feel like it keeps me feeling youthful, and it's also dropped that veil to thinking because I'm older, I know more than them, or because I'm older, I'm wiser than them. So that's where that respect comes from, just understanding that they are just as valuable as someone who's older than me, and understanding that I can learn from them just as much or more than they can learn from me. So I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. Yeah?
I didn't know if there was like a story or a particular instance that you could share about like taking one of these kids on an experience and seeing how that, like just seeing the light bulb moment for them go off.
Yeah. So, you know, we talk about truth and truth changing over your lives and seasons of your life. So to be completely transparent, my truth was different when I was a drug dealer, right? My truth was different when I was a drug addict. My truth was different when I was incarcerated. My truth was different when I was in jail and I found spirituality, and I had spoken to my God, my higher power, and I said, if you allow me to make it out of this situation mentally and physically whole, and I grew up Catholic, so those that grew up Catholic understand what penance is. You know, my penance for all my sins and everything I've done wrong in my past would be to give back and help young people before they hit this adult system, this, you know, human zoo where we're putting people in cages. And the first kind of real job I got after being released was working at this youth organization, or it's another community organization working with young people, and my boss said, hey, why don't you go to this training? It wasn't a training, it was a job networking event, and I met people from Appalachian Mountain Club, and they said, yeah, we work with at-risk youth, and we take them outdoors, we do leadership training with them. We even work with gang members of rival gangs, and we take them hiking, mountain climbing. So I went on one of their trainings they had, and because it was the population I worked with, we had young people with us. And you know, for people that know anything about gangs, we had these rival gang members, and you know, guys that honestly wanted to kill each other. And not personally, but because you were from this side of town, I'm from this side of town, and because we've been kind of sold some goods that I have to hate you, you have to hate me. But when we brought them together and we did this kind of leadership training with them, and they got to see that they had way more similarities than differences, but when we got to the top of the mountain, and I want to say it was Mount Cardigan in Alexandria, New Hampshire. One started crying, the other one had tears in their eyes. They had never seen something so beautiful, right? And if anyone in here has ever climbed a mountain, you know, to feel like you're at the top of the world, to feel like you've just endured some very hard physical stress and all the lessons for life, you know, obstacles in the way, but keep pushing on, you'll get there eventually. But to see these two, you know, hardened gangbangers in tears at the beauty of nature was one moment early in my career that, and I always believe in signs, and I always believe in the power of the universe, that told me I was on the right path. And you know, I've been doing this like 20 years now, and I can tell you 100 stories like that that just remind me you're doing what you were meant to be doing, you know? So, yeah, that's one story that I always remember, but always kind of reaffirmed in the very beginning that I was on the path I was meant to be on. Yeah. Thanks. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Is it time? It's okay.
No, go ahead.
Thank you for the way that you started. That was wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
And hearing that, yeah, spirituality has been a big part of me coming into this work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a youth worker, and I'm curious about how to hold spaces for them to find their truth. And I would call it like a spiritual experience that's not specific.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if
yeah.
you wanted to share a story of that work and maybe some, how you hold that for your students, if you do.
Yeah, no, I think one of the things about spirituality, and I think with young people, right? I think as young people, and like I said, I grew up Catholic. When you come come from a family that's religious, or it's kind of like, it's pushed upon you, right? Like you don't really have a choice. So I had I'll talk about one young person. And so I'm a spoken word artist, and just through the power of poetry and the therapeutic nature of writing, he was very spiritual, but also was conflicted because of religion. You know, and I'll talk about one example, but it goes back to like working with a group. But his sister was LGBTQ, and the family had kind of disowned her and kind of pushed her out of the fold, you know, just because of who she was. And kudos to her that she didn't feel restricted anymore and was able to be free, but he had this confliction inside that just screamed, no, like he loved his sister wholly, and he saw his family do this to her, and through his church they were telling him like, you know, she was wrong. And so I think a lot of times, and I'm always really like respectful and I think cautious when it comes to stuff like that, but I think letting kids understand that religion is more of a man-made thing, and spirituality is something inside, and we really tap into that a lot. And whether, you know, we're every group, we're in a circle, and that's community, and we work to support everyone, and it's family, and you know, it's focused on, you know, them and being mindful, and, you know, taking opportunities that we do meditate, we do go outside on hikes, and we do take time alone to be mindful, and, you know, just helping them understand that everyone's spiritual, right? And allowing them to have space to find that for themselves. It's hard sometimes because I work with quite a few Latinx young people, and you know, within their communities, there's, you know, some like pretty hardcore Christianity, and you know, one kid said that, you know, music and dancing was not allowed, and you know, that broke my heart, because music is such a huge part of my life and such a huge part of the things that make me happy, and the ways I learn about things. So I don't even know if I'm answering your question, but just allowing them space, and, you know, creating space, right, through mindfulness and meditation, and just teaching them these practices. Yesterday we did a gratitude exercise, and I even had a printout that showed how practicing gratitude can help you have stronger relationships, can help you be, you know, have more happiness and less anxiety, less depression, can have you have, you know, a happier and healthier friend group. So yeah, now I feel like I'm rambling, but honestly, it's just kind of like allowing them that space where they can find out on their own, learn on their own, and there's no judgment, there's no pressure, and honestly, just leading them to themselves, right? That part of themselves. So that's what I do. But we can definitely connect and stay in touch. Yeah.
Mswati?
Yes.
I'm curious about that space again, on literal space.
Yeah.
And actually that salt, fresh water access of different people's opinions, beliefs, and persuasions. I kind of piggyback on what Andy was saying. How do we like bring people together? I know there's innovation in Roxbury. We do a lot of different things, but I still feel like there's a lot of just gathering of the local community, and I think it's hard to go beyond that sometimes.
My young people wanted to do an action to let the world, Boston, Charlestown, know how they felt. And in thinking of what we were going to do, I got a call from then Boston City Councilor Lydia Edwards, now State Senator, and they were thinking the same thing, and we said, oh, let's partner up on something. And if anyone knows anything about Charlestown, it's a very complex relationship with wealth and class, race, dating back, you know, a couple generations, and you know, even now today, gentrification, and a lot of people don't know Charlestown has the largest housing development in New England, not just Massachusetts, New England, 1,100 units. So we decided to have a forum and call it a race dialogue, where we would invite community members, community partners, people from institutions, so people from the hospital, people from the court system, people from the police department, and in restorative justice style, we would pose a question, and everyone would have a chance, go around the circle and answer the question however they saw fit. And dialogue is a little misleading because 95% is just actively listening, and you don't question someone else's truth. You listen and you understand, and you listen, and that causes understanding and really getting to know people at a deeper level than you would have just having conversations. Like one of our last race dialogues, the question was, talk about how media, so film, television, music, newspapers, magazines, shaped your viewpoint of people from a race other than yours. And now when you're hearing, you know, a 50-year-old Jewish woman talk and a 17-year-old African-American young man talk, and they tell their viewpoints of things, you start to really have an understanding of them, the way they think, why they think certain things. So like Sophia said, so we've been doing that since George Floyd's murder. We're way past 2 years now. We do it monthly, every third Tuesday of the month. We do it, and it's been amazing. I mean, we just had our this Tuesday, past Tuesday, and we must have had like 7 or 8 new people that's never been. And 2 months ago, we had 60 people in this space. You know, this week we had 30, but every month it's a little different, new people. But you talk about community, and that's a way to build community and build understanding. And people will come up to me and say, one guy, and I won't name his name, but he spent 10 years in prison on a hate crime. And he's very honest and said, I went to prison for a crime I didn't commit, but I did commit other crimes, so, you know, karma put me here. He said to me, what you've been doing the last couple of years has been so transformative. I never would have thought I would have seen in Charlestown a black man leading a circle conversation group of white people, young, old, black, Hispanic, Asian, just everyone together in Charlestown. He said it would have never happened 20 years ago. So when you talk about community and literal space, like, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is an example of the things, you know, we've seen happen, and we've just been fortunate to have a major part in, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So thank you for that. Yeah, thank you for, so listen, thank you guys so much. I'm so honored to be here. I can't wait to start coming in every month and really getting to know a lot of you and getting to, you know, learn more, see speakers, and just spend more time with Sophia. But I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.